Okay, let it play, boy.
In the early 1800s, the city known today as Lagos in modern-day Nigeria was one of the major ports for the export of West African slaves to North and South America. Now, while British traders had once been major players in the slave trade, mounting pressure from missionary groups and a spike in demand for palm oil as a machine lubricant following the Industrial Revolution meant that the British government would now begin battling other European powers to bring an end to the slave trade and gain monopoly access to the region's palm oil and other industrial raw materials. Prior to this change in policy, the slave trade had been sustained by a triangular system of exchange that had lasted for over 300 years. African slaves were captured and sold by local kings, chiefs and military generals to European traders who would then transport them to the Americas and the Caribbean islands to work in plantations producing materials like sugar and cotton. These products would then be shipped over to European factories where they would be made into finished goods like clothing, rum and brandy that would then be shipped over to Africa along with other items such as guns, clocks and leather goods to be exchanged for more slaves. Breaking the established order, the new British strategy will now be firmly focused on keeping African labor within its shores as the continuing demand for slaves on the West African coastline was causing a serious labor shortage on the mainland, which was hampering its agricultural productivity. The trade had also made the region generally more dangerous and unstable, as long-standing tribal wars that had been going on years before the arrival of Europeans were now even more bloody, thanks to the introduction of guns and cannons acquired from European traders. Many local kings and chiefs were also now seeking to subdue neighboring tribes and expand their territories, so the cities and villages surrounding the coastlines were continually being raided by gun-wielding militias looking to capture and sell slaves on the coasts in exchange for more weapons. If the British government was to ensure safe and efficient access to the region's resources, the slave trade-fueled violence and instability would need to be brought to an end. Britain got to work by passing anti-slavery laws and also establishing an anti-slavery navy squadron which began intercepting slave ships in the region and returning the captives to shore. However, the slave trade showed no sign of slowing down, as it was simply too profitable for the local rulers and the mainly Portuguese slave traders that now dominated the market. Britain needed a more permanent solution, and luckily for them, a long-standing rivalry between two Yoruba kings would present them with a perfect opportunity. In the 1840s, Oba Akitoye and Oba Kosoko were involved in a bitter rivalry for the throne of Lagos. Oba Akitoye had been crowned King of Lagos in 1841, but his rival, Oba Kosoko, believed that he should have been crowned king based on a true reading of the Lagos king-making traditions. In 1845, Kosoko forcefully removed Akitoye from the throne and crowned himself king, forcing Akitoye and his supporters into exile. Although he previously had no moral objections to slavery, Akitoye contacted the British government and promised to sign a treaty banning the slave trade in Lagos and granting British missionaries and merchants exclusive access to the region provided the British army would help him regain the throne. Following a battle referred to by locals as Ogun Agidingbi, which can be roughly translated as the Bowling Battle, the British Royal Navy inflicted a heavy defeat on Oba Kosoko and his army of over 5,000 men and reinstalled Akitoye as the King of Lagos. As agreed, Akitoye passed a law banning slavery in Lagos and granted the British government and its citizens significant privileges and influence in the region. The rest, as they say, is history. Oba Akitoye died 2 years later, and his son Oba Dosumu was forced to sign a treaty turning Lagos into a British colony just 7 years after his father's death. With slavery abolished and Lagos now a full British colony, Portuguese influence in the region dissipated and Lagos became a commercial hub for the export of palm oil and other raw materials sourced from the surrounding regions. Following the infamous Berlin Conference of 1884, the map of modern Nigeria was outlined for further exploration and conquest, and Sir George Tolman Godey's Royal Niger Company was authorized to secure the territory. Recruiting and enlisting many local militias to its cause, the Royal Niger Company embarked on a campaign to conquer the territory, and within just over a decade, it had forcefully secured over 400 treaties from various local rulers, pledging their allegiance and granting full legislative and judicial authority to the company. After having established itself as the de facto government of a region encompassing over 250 ethnic groups and over 400 languages, the Royal Niger Company officially transferred control of Nigeria to the British government on the 1st of January 1900, receiving £865,000 as compensation. Just as a side note, the Royal Niger Company still exists today as part of Unilever plc, the company behind popular brands like Ben & Jerry's, Lipton, Dove and Vaseline. Recognizing the vast differences between the people in the region, the British initially divided the new territory into a southern Nigerian protectorate, which had become majority Christian, and a northern Nigerian protectorate, which had remained majority Muslim. However, while southern Nigeria was very productive and ran at a budget surplus due to its abundant natural resources and its people's embrace of education and commerce, the north was a largely loss-making enterprise that cost the British more to administer than they gained in the trade of its raw materials. It has been suggested that the financial woes of the Northern Protectorate was due to a combination of its relatively fewer natural resources and the strong Islamic culture in the region, which was very resistant to secular education. Needing an urgent solution to the Northern Nigerian budget deficit, British High Commissioner Frederick Lugard decided that it would be a great idea to join the two vastly different regions together into one united political entity. And to the dismay of many protesting southern Nigerians, the two protectorates were amalgamated in 1914 to form a single British colony of Nigeria, which would ultimately become the Federal Republic of Nigeria we know today. As another side note, many scholars believe that it was Lugard's wife, Flora Shaw, who named the country Nigeria after the river Niger that runs across the territory. So in more ways than one, Nigeria was never a very Nigerian idea to begin with. Rather than being some kind of mythical homeland of the Nigerian people, a more accurate description based solely on its origin story would be to describe it as a corporate entity that was formed to ensure the profitable exploitation of the natural resources in the geographical areas that surround the Niger River. And nearly 60 years after gaining independence from British rule in 1960, my country Nigeria still seems to conform to the original purpose for which it was formed. The only difference now is that rather than lining the pockets of the shareholders of the Royal Niger Company, its resources now line the pockets of the Nigerian elite. Having discovered over 37 billion barrels of oil reserves under its soil, modern-day Nigeria may have ditched palm oil for the more profitable crude oil, but the status quo remains very much the same. The only Nigerians that seem to benefit from the country's natural wealth are the elites that own oil wells and the government officials tasked with managing the resource. Despite a failing education system, poor infrastructure, insecurity, and mass unemployment, Nigerian politicians are arguably some of the best paid politicians in the world. A recent report by Nigerian news station Channels TV estimated that Nigerian senators earn as much as $80,000 a month in wages and allowances, meaning that they are paid over 10,000 times more than the Nigerian minimum wage and over 200 times more than its GDP per capita. All this in a country where nearly 87 million people live on less than $1 a day. Indeed, life for the average Nigerian has become so hard that the goal for many is to live anywhere else but Nigeria. To draw a shocking comparison, while an estimated 10.5 million African slaves were involuntarily taken out of Africa over the 300 years of the transatlantic slave trade, some estimates suggest that the number of Nigerians voluntarily living outside of Nigeria has grown to over 15 million since its independence in 1960. From popular destinations like the US, UK and Canada to places like Russia, Ukraine and Malaysia, Nigerians are choosing to endure all kinds of prejudice, climates and harsh treatment just to make a better life for themselves and their families. Just like the Royal Niger Company and its pre-independence colonial administrators ran Nigeria primarily for the benefit of themselves and the British Empire, in many ways, the current generation of Nigerian elites do exactly the same, but perhaps to a much more extreme degree, as they now work not just for the benefit of Britain, but for the rest of the Western world as well. How exactly, you might ask? Well, first and foremost, by looting and sending billions and billions of dollars worth of oil revenues that should be kept and reinvested into the local economy to European banks to just sit and accumulate interest. By stimulating the London property market with their endless acquisitions of rows and rows of expensive London properties. By paying eye-watering amounts in tuition fees for their children to study abroad while their local institutions rot away. and by championing European industry and exports with their insatiable appetite for imported luxury cars, clothing, and perishable goods. So while they might hold Nigerian passports and outwardly claim to be proud Nigerians, their actions show that they do not feel any true sense of solidarity with their fellow Nigerians. And oddly enough, their way of thinking is actually not that surprising when you understand where they're coming from. You see, it's very hard to feel any real sense of duty to a country that you have no real attachment to. Raised by parents and grandparents who saw nothing in common with the hundreds of neighboring tribes that were involuntarily bound together in the artificially constructed profit-making machine called Nigeria, the current generation of Nigerian elites were never going to suddenly put down their ethnic prejudices and embrace a bright vision of one Nigeria simply because it now had a new flag, a new anthem, and a new team of black administrators. One question that is often asked is why nearly 60 years after gaining independence, the Nigerian elite have not simply opted to undo the colonial structures and divide the country along its pre-colonial ethnic lines. This is a very complicated question, but the simple answer is that a breakup of Nigeria would cause a lot of wealthy and powerful people to lose a lot of wealth and power. And the millions of lives that were lost during the 1967 to 1970 Biafran War show just how far those who benefit from Nigeria's existence would be willing to go to keep Nigeria going. But here's the thing, regardless of how it came to be, or why it still exists in its original colonial form, the reality is that the hopes and dreams of over 200 million people now depend on the success or failure of Nigeria. And moreover, there is now an ever-growing number of young people for whom Nigeria is their mythical homeland. Unlike their parents and grandparents, they really do see themselves as Nigerians as opposed to Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. They speak Nigerian English as a first and in some cases only language. They hardly understand nor revere the historic traditions of their parents and instead identify more closely with the emerging contemporary Nigerian culture. A culture that is being built around the growing music, fashion, and movie industry, an ever-evolving shared language, and a shared struggle to succeed in the midst of adversity. For these Nigerians, Nigeria is far from just a money-making venture. It is their one and only homeland, and they continually hope and dream of a day when it will be led by visionary and just leaders. But with minds deeply molded by their ethnocentric upbringings and their many years at the forefront of the neo-colonial exploitation of their country, perhaps it is unrealistic to expect any serious change under the leadership of the current generation of Nigerian elites. The question that remains to be answered is whether the next generation of Nigerian leaders will be any different. Once again, it's KB Taiwo for New Africa. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.
This experiment will look into how today's black children in Britain see race in relation to good and bad, and also how they subliminally see themselves. Have we overlooked the minds of the youth? Have we unconsciously painted the image of beauty in the eyes of the young? Does colorism exist amongst black children? These are the questions I want you to think about when watching the following. The Doll Test. the birth of self-hate.
My name is Jenny and I am the owner of the Guava Kitchen in Forest Hill. I believe the most special times in life is when we share it with loved ones and friends, have amazing cuisine and listen to the beautiful melodies of music. I worked in the city for 30 years and gave it all up to pursue my dreams. It was a dream that I thought would be impossible, but when I walked into the doors of 16 London Road, the dream became inevitable. The Guava Kitchen is a plant-based brasserie with a tropical twist, located in the beautiful, picturesque community of Forest Hill. We are so fortunate to be in the heart of an area that has such a wealth of independent, artistic initiatives. It really resonates with our ethos of creating a taste of something different that is nourishing, authentic and vibrant. The great thing about the Guava Kitchen is you can pop in for breakfast, lunch, or for just a casual coffee and a slice of cake. Or you can have a glass of vegan wine, even a cocktail. We really do pride ourselves on being one of the very few plant-based brasseries serving tropical cuisine with a fine dining style. We love the fact that many of our customers are not plant-based, but have been drawn in by the delicious vegan cakes, our tasty authentic tropical cuisine and the modern calming interior. We have a beautiful space downstairs that is used for a whole host of activities and events. Our customers are our guests and the team are driven to make this a welcoming place for everyone to enjoy. For us, smiling is therapy. It makes our customers feel good and it encompasses everything about us. At the Guava Kitchen, we like to feel that we bring a little tropical sunshine every day to our customers. Whatever the weather outside, they can step inside and feel like this is a peaceful and fun space to enjoy. We really love it here and we can't wait to see you so you can enjoy some of the Guava experience.
Outside the schools, in the court system. I know she eat from morning because she's been driving up and down England and she's come here today and she's representing the Black Child Agenda. So if anybody who has any problems with their children in the school system, just mention the Black Child Agenda and see people start, oh, okay. They fix up, trust me. And when I was having issues with my little brother in his schooling system, I just called my sister and said, yes, what I have to do. And she goes, answer this. I've never seen people turn pink in my life. When you answer certain things, they're like, oh, this parent needs to be played with. And they start backing away because they know you know your stuff. Yeah, this is this amazing Sister Cheryl Phoenix of the Black Child Agenda. And please.
Brother, you need to come up as well. How are you? Let me go have one cheer for you, Can you stand up long enough? We're going to sandwich you in the middle there. Right.
So, Cheryl, you're giving your background in education.
Disney films like Sleeping Beauty, and it's a little white girl that sleeps and there's like 7 men around. Like, what kind of... You see what I'm saying? And the one time they have Princess and the Frog, which is blackness, if you want to call it that, what's that? Then it's like, okay, well, this is like New Orleans, this is like the South of America. But the bad guy is someone who's darker than a woman, and plus on top of that, he's Haitian as well, so they're bringing in voodoo, so they're like, let's give them a little piece of happiness, but then let's also keep them in check by putting negativity in the room, in the space, and in their mindset. We do it all the time and constantly. You have to revamp everything that we're doing. So I'm not surprised, to be honest, but it's still sad to see because there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Let's talk from Mark And
This is Terry Riggs, Mr. Riggs, and we're at the Black History Studies event on the test. Is it the test dolls?
The
or
doll
the doll
test.
test?
The doll test, yeah.
Anyway, but we're with one of the spectacular guys that was helping out on the that film journey, and he's going to describe himself, and he's going to tell us all about what he has on that feedback today.
Thank you very much, Black Eyes TV. My name is Darryl Blake. I'm a community activist. I work in schools, community centres, and next year I will be working more in terms of indoor, so more domestic sort of work. I run a company called Black Rooted, which is a social media platform about empowering our communities and focus on the African diaspora, because a lot of us seem to look towards the States for information and knowledge and wisdom, and not to knock the States, but we have our own stories as West Africans, South Africans, Central, Northern, and even thus creating the Caribbean, obviously. So Black Rooted is about talking about everything that happens across the African diaspora. You could even be in Brazil, and where a lot of our brothers and sisters are, a lot of our African brothers and sisters are, where they are the highest concentration of African people outside of Nigeria. There's more African people in Brazil than there is in the United States.
I just come from there.
Right, well, from Brazil, yeah?
Yeah, I was in Brazil with the Queen Diambi of the Republic of Congo.
Oh, yeah?
And she was crowned the Queen of the Bantu people of Brazil.
Wow.
I was in all the spiritual houses.
Yeah? Did you see the colorism feel over there in terms of...
Especially south of the Bahia.
Right. So the north, the further north you go, is it? Do you find you see darker hued people?
Or you go to the capital.
Okay.
Talk about me.
Okay. So no more.
South of the Bahia.
Okay, fair enough.
Continue anyway, my brother.
Yeah. So with the doll test, it's based upon a 1940s experiment by Kenneth and Mamie Clark, who basically wanted to bring about the conversation of what is psychologically happening to our young people, be it boy, be it girl, by having separated schools. So with the doll test, they showed us that literally black children saw anything other than white as positive, as good, as happy, and anything that was non-white, meaning black, they were sad, unhappy, they were bad, they were cruel, they were angry. It was all negative. So what they did was push that test as a result to say, look, we need to desegregate the schools and we need to come together, because even though we had the equal but separate clause, meaning everybody can have schools, everybody's entitled to an education. However, your level of education is going to be poor and mine's going to be high. So it's like, look, the doctrines that we're learning in the schools are bad. So how about if we all come together and then we can easily just say, look, let's judge it from this point that we're all working together. So that's pretty much the argument that they came forward. It came about in the late 40s with the whole journey in the early 50s of Brown versus Board of Education, and thus created a lot of Black Power movements. So what I wanted to do was create a documentary based upon that theory of the doll test that they came out with, and see how far have we come as black people. Also, where are we in the UK in terms of black children looking at how do they self-identify? Do they actually have that same aspect in terms of internal racism? Over 70% of the dolls chose the white doll as the positive one. Now that just goes to show about self-hate. One of the quotes in there in the documentary talks about her vision of what America has in terms of black children, in terms of black people. I'm not going to say what it is, can't wait to come and see it. We'll be screening again in 2020. If you follow Black Rooted, my company, they'll have the details on there. So the doll test was based upon that study, but I wanted to bring it home to us so we can be awake and say, you know, we may think we're comfortable, but our young people are facing challenges that does not even aware to us. And here's the result of it. Here's the test.
Okay, so your feedback of today and the Black History studies of helping to do today's event. What was your feel amongst when you showed this to the crowd?
Well, prior to the screening, I was anxious because I know how much was put into this, and also I know how much it means to me and to the production group, TG group. So I was anxious to see what the results were going to be from the people's faces. But as I was watching their faces, it kind of, I got the happy side, I got the sad side. I got the happy side because everybody's engaged. I saw people taking notes. But the sad side is you can see her shaking her head like, oh my gosh, is this really what's happening? And when I spoke to Charmaine as well, she was excited to see it because she knows about it, obviously, through Black History Studies. But on top of that, she literally wanted to see what the impact was from doing the test and how it's going to affect those in the room. And it was sad to see because a lot of people were vexed, a lot of people were happy to see the result being the test being done, but they was upset about the results because it shows that blackness is literally something that doesn't get spoken about enough.
If there was something you wanted to say to Charmaine and Mark, what would you say to them?
Thank you so much. Keep up the great work. I'm such a fan of supplementary schools. Black History Studies is something that it should be a thick book that should be a Bible in everybody's home. Everybody's black. White people can learn from it too, but we're not trying to cater to others, trying to cater to our own. Black History Studies is so important. I was a student of Pan-African schools. I know Mark's a student of that as well. And I want to say thank you for screening the first screening ever in London of this documentary. And I just hope to see you go on to greater things. And I hope my next documentary, which I'm writing right now, I'll be able to screen it with them as well. So Mark, Charmaine, thank you so much. And nothing but blessings for the new year.
So just say your name one more time and how to find you.
Right, my name's Daryl Blake. You can find me on Instagram, DARREL.Blake. And on Twitter, Daryl Blake again, but it's Daryl__Blake. And you can find out about where I'm going to be speaking next, presentations I'm doing, talks, lectures, and that sort of thing. So it's all there. And Blackrooted is Blackrooted, one word on Instagram.
And one more big up to
Black Ice TV. What? 7 as well. Yeah. See, 7's a powerful number. Let's not even get into that still. Powerful number. Lucky number 7. But yeah, Black Ice TV, 7. Big up, man.
Hi, my name is June and I am the co-owner of Bell Treatment Rooms here in South London, Brixton.
Hi, my name is Basil Links and I'd just like to let you all know that we've opened a really exciting new business. It's down in Stockwell Road, 205A Stockwell Road. It's called Vale Treatment Rooms. At Vale we specialise in facial acupuncture, massage, colonic irrigation, makeup, eyelash extensions, microblading, scalp micropigmentation, and we do wart and mold treatments. We also do consultations, health consultations.
So let me introduce you to my team. As you can see, I am having a shoulder massage done by our leading masseuse.
Facial acupuncture is part of traditional Chinese medicine practice. It's a great treatment if you want to rejuvenate your sense of well-being. It's great for things like sagging skin, bags under the eyes, so that you can stay well within yourself and have that radiated out towards everybody else as well.
Colonic can help with weight loss, partly because it hones your mind to think about what you're eating and it gets you off to a fresh start.
There's a fantastic team down here, a wealth of experience, and I'd really like you to look us up, check us out, and spread the word. Thank you.
About themselves. Now we don't sit down our children and say, right here, read Marcus Garvey's speeches and know them by. No. We take them to an event. So big up every parent that brought your children here today. Round of applause to the parents that brought your children today. Because oftentimes the parents say, oh, there's nothing for the young people. But bring your children with you. Bring your children with you. I brought my children to events in UCL, in various different places. With my big buggy. People know I'm parking at double buggy everywhere. Bring your children with you. They need to educate and learn with us. In our house, our TV blew up about 5, 6 months ago.
9 months, 7 days, 12 hours and 22 seconds.
And it was like, okay, the TV blow, that's cool. I have no interest in buying getting another TV because we noticed that we regulated the TV that our children watched. Yeah? If there was nonsense on the TV, Mark is the first one to turn off that TV. I remember when, what was that Money Supermarket advert came on with the man in the hot pants? That came on, the TV went off for like 2 weeks.
So glad the TV blew up. We couldn't wait for the TV to blow up.
What is this madness on the TV? A mockery of the black woman. And then, so when we notice when we turn off the TV, our children are more creative. They take out their puzzles, we got the puzzles at the back, they do the puzzles, they play Monopoly, they're role playing with each other. They're more active and creative as opposed to sitting in front of the TV. Yeah? And when we used to tell people that we turn off the TV or regulate the TV, people look at us like we're crazy. When we said to people we don't want any girl that don't look like our children in our household, they thought, oh, you're being racist. But no, when they go out of our household, they see everybody else. But while they're in our space, they see people that look like us. Now our children grew up in Black History Studies. So what they're seeing everybody from every nationality, as is in this room today, represented. So they have a high racial esteem about the people around them. They love Professor Les Henry. My second daughter gets excited and want to speak to Dr. Les and Professor Les all the time. Yeah, they're around positive people all the time. But the thing is, if we don't come out of our comfort zone and take responsibility for the education of our children, nothing will change. Yeah? Hence the reason why we have the Introduction to Black Studies course, because we teach that in the course. And when we do that particular part of the course, it's powerful. Because a lot of people have gone through that journey as well, of selfing and starting to love themselves. I can't tell you, I said I love myself all the time, but I had images and people around me that said, you know, Charmaine, you can go ahead and do certain things. But not all of our children have that luxury, especially in the school system in this country. But you can't rely on the school system to educate your children. We cannot.
Okay, so
when I see now their children, I see just the same sort of narrative where everything other than self is what's brilliant and they aspire to try and be like. And they tend to, and the interesting thing is, which may be a bit controversial, they tend to have a bit of a heated relationship with their parents, my cousins and their parents. And I see there's something going on there, mostly with the mothers. There's a problem there that I see as a woman and as a mother as well, that there's a problem there where they don't listen or there's been issues around their relationships, so they go with the other side. And the interesting thing is one of my cousins will categorically tell you he will never date a black woman. He finds them ugly, he finds them disgusting, he finds them this, that and the other. And then on top of that, he will see a white woman and call her black. Of course you're black, you're with me. Of course you're black, you've got small waists and big hips. Of course you're black, you've got big lips. Now, this is actually my family, I don't chat to them. So, you know, and it's just weird when I look at the psychology of them and then they look down on my sons and they will be like, oh, her sons are gangsters. Because my sons are very, very pro-black. They walk with their back straight and their head held high because of how I've raised them. They're kings. Don't make nobody chat to you any kind of way. If police try and stop and search you, you understand the 10 basic laws of stop and search. If any teacher challenges you in school about black history, you understand what time it is. And if they put you in isolation, call mummy. You know, so that's I've kind of empowered them about their identity and about black women. And when my husband was alive as well, who was Nigerian, we had that going on. There was nothing else outside of that. So for me, that has something to do with it. I don't know what you guys say as black men.
Well, I can say... We've taken them around the world. That's myself and my wife. We've taken them all around the world. I have never dated a white woman, ever, and I never would. Hold on, I don't want no applause. I want you to listen. Part of it was because from when I was a youth, I made a conscious choice that these people hated me so much, I didn't want anything to do, okay? So I saw them as the devil, as this, as that. I'm just telling you straight. By the time I got into probably my late teens, my consciousness shifted. However, my aesthetic taste as an African person hasn't. Now one of my daughters got married to a white man in the summer. And I'm happy for her, and I'm happy for him. Because I cannot impose my worldview on her. What I do know is, she's not a sellout, although that's what people have told her. I know she's very conscious, because she knows who she is. And I know she hasn't married him to be white. And she certainly hasn't married him to have mixed race children either. She's married him, because as he said, he pursued her for about 6 to 9 months. Because they were just friends. So to me, I am not going to impose that on them, and I'll tell you why. Because when my first daughter, my oldest daughter, was going to be 44 in December, told me she was dating a white guy when she was 20, I cried for 4 days. I'm telling you the truth. You want the truth? I'm giving you the truth. That's where I was in my thinking. But then what I realised, and I'll tell you what really brought it home to me, the difference is, when I had my 18th birthday or Earth Day party, myself and my twin brother, there was one white guy there, a guy called Gary Payne, who one of my sisters has got a child for. He's the only white friend I've had since school, and he's still my friend now, okay? When my daughter, my last daughter, had her 18th, in my garden, I counted 26 different nationalities. Now, who am I to impose on them who they can be or who they can be with? That is not my role as a father. My role as a father is to conscientize them and make them know they are African. This is what they are. They're African. What they choose to do with that, up to them. I can't drag them to these meetings, I can't take them anywhere. Because what I can tell you, one of the dangers is, this whole notion of this racialized world goes against history. And if you really want to do that, go with Black History Studies on their Egypt tours, go into the temples, and you will see the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, the Kamites, or whatever you want to call them, the oldest picture of the members of the human family presented as civilized is found in Kemet. The oldest pictures. I think it's what's his name? Not
Running through corridors, never-ending maze of my mind. Will it ever stop, or will I find the pathways of decision have me tripping over distance? I've been missing who I am, who I am. Been missing. Round and round the merry-go, trying to figure out all the rules. Will it ever stop, or will I find
books at the back if you want to.
Yeah, we're from Birmingham. We teamed up with Daryl and Dorian, we're a TG group, and we put together the documentary. We're both from, all of us are from BCU, university, we all studied there, and that's how we got the team. The Dole test, yeah, it was a journey. It was filmed in January 2019. 10 children, all from Brum, between 4 and 10. And it was kind of interesting, parts of the film what you saw, there was parts what we didn't film, like the conversations with the parents, what their thoughts were after, seeing some of the answers what the children had said, some of the ones from the children picking the white dolls over the black dolls, and those are the conversations which we thought we should have captured to show the audience, like the kind of setting.
So you didn't film it?
No, we just had the conversation.
Well, that's an idea for part 2.
Well, what you could do is screen it and then film it.
Terry Riggs, Mr. Riggs at the Black History Studies, and we have one of the people that did the film, the dolls test, and they're going to give us the information about themselves and how they came about it.
Hi, I'm Natasha Henry. I'm the executive producer on the doll test. How I came about it, I worked with the director. We both went to Birmingham City University and studied marketing and media and communications.
She got 90% on her masters. Let's not forget that. No, I'm Dorian Wallace. I'm the director and producer of the doll test and the producer of the TG group. So as a company, we just try to produce media and marketing that's in line with our core values, which is the Tetra model, marketing, media, and sociology, all based within blackness. So we try to make everything we do kind of in line with all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
So what brought you about doing this documentary?
Oh, as a collaborative, it was Darryl Blake, the narrator and writer of the Doll Test. He came up with the idea. He told us to put our sparkles on it and to produce something amazing which can reach the community. So from the idea of reimagining the 1940s Doll Test by Mamie Clark and Kenneth Clark, me and Dorian put our minds together and created the documentary and all the media outlets, the imagery and so forth.
What brought you to the Black History Studies? Because they put on this event for you. How did you lot collaborate?
How we collaborated was that we were tweeting about the Birmingham screening, and Charmaine got in contact with Black Rooted, which is a platform which Darryl Blake is the founder of. And he then forwarded her on to me, and then we spoke, and we was like, yeah, we definitely would like to do one in London. We probably would like to do one all over the UK, but yeah, yeah, that's a shout out to anyone who wants to. Speak to us. They can.
If you wanted to see overseas what's happened today, what would you feel your feedback was?
From overseas, if America.
No, your feedback from today.
What would our feedback be?
Okay.
What do you feel?
Yeah, no, I felt like this event was really good. I felt like it was really well put on by Black History Studies. Expect nothing less with Charmaine, absolute star. Everybody here were amazing. Our panelists, Les Henry, Sherelle, Phoenix, Darryl Blake, excellent. I just hope they enjoyed it as much as we did. Yeah.
So are you not headed back?
Yes, back to Birmingham, back to work. Working on a few more exciting projects. Maybe working on a follow-up to this. So, yeah.
So how will they find you?
You can find the TG Group on Instagram, the.tg.group. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, the TG Group, the same. So, yeah, follow up. The TG Group, the.tg.group. Yeah.
So make sure you look, check it out.
Yeah.
Yes, this is Black Eyes TV once again. And we have Mr. Mark taking his jacket off because the feminine energy told him to take it off. But you know what? He's tired. He's exhausted. He's been doing this event, and he's just gone. I just want to get his feedback on how this event went.
Yeah, it was a very positive event in the sense that a lot of eyes were open. In the sense that since the Dolls Test was done back in the 50s, not much has changed. And in the sense that people need to recognize it starts in the house. So, the fruit don't drop far from the tree is the message that I gave out to the people today, and people need to recognize that and deal with that. Simple things.
Just one more blessing. If the children needed to know about this, what kind of advice would you give them about this Doll Test?
I would get them to know themselves, know who they are, where they're coming from, and with that mindset they could never be oppressed or depressed or obstressed or all type of stress cannot touch them because they know who they are and where they're coming from. But that's a message for the parents as well. Like I said, the fruit don't drop far from the tree. So the children's first teacher is the parents. And in terms of the parents, www.blackhistorystudies.com, Introduction to Black Studies, starting in January 2020. You guys need to be there, and then it takes a village to raise a child, but it starts with you in the house.
One ad-lib, Black Eyes TV7.
Say again?
Big up Black Eyes TV7.
Big up Black Eyes TV7. All you mean, big time, every time, all the time, on time. Up with the time.
Greetings. My name is Queen Afua, and I am here to support you and your family to have a lifestyle of wellness in body, mind, and spirit. I have been on this holistic path for the last 40 plus years, living the lifestyle and sharing it with my global community. And the mission is that you learn how to heal yourself and become the healer of your home. And within that, learn how to set up a wellness home so you can have a wellness family. This is your time. Take the journey with me so that you will heal yourself, your family, and that you will establish a wellness home. Thank you.
Welcome to Black Ice TV 7. I am Stella B, and this is Karina. She is the owner of Eye Crystal Magic.
Yes, we are here. Black Ice TV 7, Stella B and
Nat Nye, the lyrical alchemist, with Ekon, EKON